They came from nothing, but they've got a whole lot more of something than the average person.
I give a lot of money to charities.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 rags to riches success stories.
If I'm totally honest with you, I regret much more that my mother never saw any of it. That's a bit of a killer.
For this list, we've looked at those celebrities who made their millions despite more than modest beginnings. There are no criteria limits in terms of career paths. Any celebrity with a rags to riches tale is in with a chance.
Now, every person can use a computer because they're low cost and very easy to use.
Number 10. John Paul DeJoria.
Billionaire, co-founder of John Paul Mitchell Systems and Patron Tequila, John Paul DeJoria.
He's one of the world's most successful entrepreneurs, but it hasn't always been stocks, shares, and squillions in the bank for this guy.
I sold encyclopedias door to door when I was 19, 20, 21, and 22 years old for Collier's Encyclopedia.
Born in LA, DeJoria and his brother spent time in the foster care system as kids. And the guy behind Paul Mitchell Systems was even part of a street gang at one point. A single father struggling to make ends meet in his early 20s, he's now known as a leading philanthropist, rights campaigner, and all-round influential businessman. DeJoria did real good at life.
And John Paul DeJoria gave us a tour of his luxurious villa in Malibu with its sweeping staircase, 2,000-year-old floor tiles that once adorned a Roman palace.
Number 9. Manny Pacquiao.
That Pacquiao, he's a smart boy. He runs the town.
There are plenty of boy-done-good stories in boxing, but this man's rise to the top is especially incredible. Forced to drop out of high school as a young teen in the Philippines due to extreme poverty, Pacquiao then moved to Manila and lived out on the streets. Brought to the ring as a boy, he proved a furious fighter, winning title after title in all manner of weight divisions.
Go in the politics. I believe that I can serve more, I can help more people.
Pacquiao also carries a career in politics, a side project in basketball, and a role within the Philippine Army. He's an unstoppable success story.
Manny Pacquiao.
Number 8. Jim Carrey.
You laugh that way because you know you're wealthy. Is that?
I'm very wealthy, and that's
odd.
That's how wealthy people laugh.
I wouldn't have guessed.
He's one of the world's most well-known and well-loved comic actors, but life hasn't always been layered with laughter for Jim Carrey.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
The Canada-born comedian dropped out of high school aged 15. Such was the level of economic hardship heaped upon his family during Carrey's teenage years.
I'm Joel.
Hi, Joel. No jokes about my name. Oh, no, you wouldn't do that. You're trying to be nice.
I don't know any jokes about your name.
Working as a janitor while his peers were passing final exams, it's difficult to see where exactly Carrey's caring for comedy came from, but we're sure glad it did.
So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it.
Number 7. Larry Ellison.
The opportunity in this country is astounding. Everyone who works hard and maybe a little cleverly has the opportunity to make almost anything possible.
At 9 months old, Larry Ellison was given up to his aunt and uncle for adoption.
My dad just said right before dinner, oh, by the way, you were adopted and we're having meatloaf tonight.
He didn't meet his biological mother again for 47 years, but in that time, he turned less than humble beginnings into big, big winnings.
Larry's attitude is, if you want to compete against me, then be prepared to be crushed.
A pioneer within the digital age despite dropping out of university twice, Ellison found his fortune as a Silicon Valley software developer.
I found that in a very short period of time I could make more money writing programs than a tenured professor at the University of Chicago was making.
With a reported $56.2 billion behind him. In 2014, Forbes listed him as the 3rd richest man in America and 5th richest in the world. In the league table of life, he's winning.
I'm addicted to winning. The more you win, the more you want to win.
Number 6. Guy Laliberté.
Man, woman, or mule, would fall for Guy Laliberté. He could charm anybody.
Having acquired an array of alternative and entertaining abilities during his youth, Canadian entrepreneur Guy Laliberté started out a street performer and ended up a space tourist. As a young man, he was reaching for the stars, but in his case, the cliché actually came true.
I went there with $50 in my pocket, and I spent my first night in London on a bench. Every time now I go in London, I take a room which I have a view on this bench.
Co-founder of the Cirque du Soleil entertainment company, he brought busking to the big stage and made big money by doing so.
Thank you, everybody.
A psychedelic Barnum and Bailey with a personal worth of over $2.5 billion.
Money that he spent on a 2009 mission to the International Space Station. His riches truly are out of this world.
Jacks up from Guy Laliberté eliminates Bobby Baldwin in 7th place.
Number 5. Andrew Carnegie.
Andrew Carnegie rises from poor immigrant to successful businessman in just 13 years.
A rags to riches story is often accompanied by some 5-star philanthropy. And for no one is this more true than for Andrew Carnegie.
His father is a handloom weaver, while his mother binds shoes for a few extra quid.
The Scottish-American steel mogul is credited as one of the modern world's first philanthropists, who, at the time of his death, had donated almost 90% of his fortune, a massive $4.76 billion at today's rate.
Carnegie made his fortune in the steel industry, controlling the most extensive integrated iron and steel operations ever owned by an individual in the United States.
Not bad for a chap who grew up in a one-room cottage in Dunfermline, Scotland. Carnegie's was an industrialized American dream, and it definitely came true.
Through the young life of Carnegie, his willingness to work hard, his perseverance, and his alertness soon brought great opportunities to him.
Number 4. Bridget Biddy Mason.
By the time she died in the 1890s, her estate at the time was $300,000, which in 1893 was a lot of money.
Another iconic entrepreneur within American history, Biddy Mason's story started on the wrong side of the slave trade in 1818.
And the whites are dragging us around in chains and handcuffs to their new states and territories, believing we were made by our Creator to be an inheritance to them and their children forever.
Born and then given to one Robert Smith and his bride as a wedding gift, Biddy was under ownership her entire life until she escaped in 1856 and won freedom within the state of California.
If nobody claimed you, you could be a free person in California, but it was a kind of a catch-22.
From that point onwards, she was a nurse, midwife, businesswoman, a church founder, rights campaigner, and charity worker. She started from below bottom, yet she was still a higher flyer than most. An incredible inspiration.
She was a wise investor. In 1888, her children were offered $200,000 for only a part of that property, and it continued to provide a solid future for all of Biddy's children and grandchildren.
Number 3. JayZ.
Pick any place on the planet, pick a show. Take what the fall was figure, then figure more. Cause they forgot to account what I did with the fraud.
We return to more modern times for our first podium finisher, and to a musician who made it big despite a very modest background.
People, were afforded opportunities that we just didn't have. And I think that's really the difference between success and failure, is opportunity.
JayZ was known more simply as Sean Carter when he grew up in a Brooklyn housing project, was abandoned by his father, and was allegedly involved in selling street drugs.
From standing on the corners bopping, to driving some of the hottest cars New Yorkers ever seen, for dropping some of the hottest verses rappers ever heard.
He might have ended up on the wrong side of some very rough tracks, but Carter could make music. And that's how he'd make his fortune.
So I would just say get involved in things that you love, and also have a standard for yourself and have some sort of integrity and try to, find some sort of truth in what you're doing.
His is an empire state of mind that made millions.
I'm the new Sinatra, and since I made it here, I can make it anywhere.
Number 2, J.K. Rowling.
How would you like to be remembered?
As someone who did the best she could with the talent she had.
Unlike many to make today's list, J.K. Rowling was not born into a bad situation, but rather suffered a string of bad situations in her 20s.
We were as skint as you can be without being homeless. In other words, we were existing entirely on benefits.
A short marriage, divorce, joblessness, ensuing clinical depression, and alleged suicidal thoughts dogged her young adulthood.
And that's just characterized for me by a numbness, a coldness, and an inability to believe that you will feel happy again.
However, Harry Potter had announced himself into her imagination apparently fully formed during a delayed train journey from Manchester to London.
It's true then, what they're saying on the train. Harry Potter has come to Hogwarts.
Rowling wrote and wrote and wrote some more, and the rest is history. Magical, money-making, hard times no more history.
What do you actually think money has done for you? What does it do?
It frees you. That's what it does, it frees you. That's why it's like a superpower.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are some honorable mentions.
That don't impress me much. So you got the brains, but have you got the touch?
Having fun?
Now, a great deal of time, sweat, and a few tears were expended on all this, but there's a lot of satisfaction in developing ideas into realities.
J'ai pas dit ça. Simplement, ta sœur a dit à Maurice, qui m'a dit que tu étais orpheline. Je ne fais que répéter.
Mais elle adore jouer à Cosette, elle croit que c'est ému.
And when I was about 7 or 8, we moved from tenement housing to the projects. It was like, I don't know if you know the show The Jeffersons, Moving On Up. We were moving on up from the really bad to the bad.
Number 1, Oprah Winfrey.
I'm Oprah Winfrey, and welcome to the very first National Oprah Winfrey Show!
She's been nicknamed the Queen of All Media, and she's our Rags to Riches winner today. Oprah Winfrey suffered seemingly ceaseless hardships during her young life.
But I had my father's voice in my ear, constantly. Well, you're making $22,000 and you're 22. Well, I don't know what else you want in the world. You better save half your money because you're not going to make that kind of money forever.
Born to a single teenage mother, she was sexually abused by family members and close friends during childhood, had her poverty routinely rubbed in her face by other children, and lost a child of her own during her teenage years.
It's a part of why I am here.
She's now one of the world's most recognizable and influential personalities.
Found me on the kitchen floor. I had passed out, drunk.
A TV and film star, author, businesswoman, and incredible philanthropist. World records of wealth have deservedly rained down upon her, against all the odds.
As the past 25 years have been, just astounding. I mean, really, the word awesome does apply. I think it was just the beginning.
Do you agree with our list?
Way to go. What a fantastic job.
Which working class hero did we forget?
Dickens is taking over the project.
For more inspiring top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
We're all here to help each other. We're all here to use our lives in service to one another.